Howdy, folks. Welcome back to episode 8 of the Suhu podcast entitled The Minimum Winter Skin Routine. Winter, winter has a funny effect on skincare routines. As soon as skin starts to feel dry or uncomfortable, most people start to freak out and they want to do a bunch more. They're reaching for products on their counter to try to counteract these effects that winter is having on their skin. More steps, more products, richer formulas, and more effort. And on its face, that reaction makes a lot of sense. When something feels off, we assume that you need to fix it. But what we want to talk about today is why winter skin often performs better with fewer variables, not more intervention. This episode won't be about neglect or giving up on skincare or throwing all your products away. It's going to be about understanding why restraint often works better when skin is under more environmental stress. So, Lydia, from a skin biology perspective, does winter actually call for less intervention instead of more?
Yeah, it's a really great question, right? When you think about winter, what you're really talking about is an environmental change. And the way I like to think about this, you could compare it to your workout routine, right? So you might be training throughout the year, but then the week before you run a marathon or the month before you run a marathon, you're going to adjust your basic routine to kind of create a additional protection, right? So that you can run your race or do the event that you're supposed to do. And so it's this basic routine, and then we adjust it a little bit as needed for the context that we are, working out for. Same thing with skin. You can think of environmental change as being something that you need to kind of prepare yourself for. And the way we want to do that is we actually want to have a really strong foundational routine. And then as the weather changes or as our environment changes, we adjust the routine a little bit to accommodate any changes we notice within the skin itself. And so that's the primary effect of winter on our skin, whether we're in a freezing cold environment or, we're just transitioning from slightly cold weather to heat inside to taking hot showers, things like that.
Yeah, so it sounds like our skin isn't living in a vacuum. It's beholden to the context of the environment around us. So paying attention to that environment makes a big difference. And so talking about that environment, winter isn't just colder, it's actually also drier. Cold air holds less moisture. Indoor heating is also going to lower your humidity. Wind can increase the evaporation off of your skin. And all of that is changing the context that your skin is operating in. So when people say their skin is suddenly feeling sensitive or reactive in winter, what's really happening is that skin is just working with fewer buffers. From my perspective, winter is a context that is reducing your margin for error. You want to have that foundational skincare routine, but that winter weather is really going to stress test it. So it makes sense that a routine that was working perfectly in, the summer, the spring, the fall is suddenly running into some trouble in the winter. What is that stress testing doing to our skin, Lydia?
Yeah, so it's actually really cool to think about this at the zoomed in chemical or biological level, at the cellular level, right? So our skin is really a bunch of layers of skin cells that are really held together and protected with this kind of almost brick and mortar like design, where the mortar is all of these beautiful lipids that really hold our skin cells in place. And as we, hang outside in warm weather and humid weather, that lipid mortar, that skin barrier, is really well protected, generally speaking. It's very flexible, it's literally warm, so that flexibility is there. But then when we transition to cold and dry weather, what happens is our skin literally starts to become colder, and that oil, you can even imagine coconut oil, right? When coconut oil starts to cool, even, around room temperature, but it cools a little bit beneath it, it starts to turn white, right? Those lipids start to actually change phase. They become more solidified. And you can think about your skin lipids as not, as dramatic as that, but they do start to cool and they become literally less flexible, right? And so our skin is slightly less flexible in the cold environment. And then on top of that, we have water loss because the air is less humid. And we also start to see like a little bit of damage in the skin barrier. And so that starts to create these little cracks. And these might be like microscopic, but essentially that's enough of damage to start to have the overall effects that you notice that are symptomatic, like dryness, itchiness, redness, pain when you put lotion on. And so that's really what happens to our skin as we start to be exposed to the cold. And we really want to like basically protect it against that, especially if we're going outside a lot or we're changing environments from like hot, warm, heat to cold. Even if you're just doing that, like going to and from work.
That's crazy. So the changing the temperature and therefore the level of humidity is actually changing the structure of your skin. And that's why you're feeling all of that extra itchiness, tightness, and redness. It seems like people's instincts then are to, reach for the cleansers, get all that itchiness off my face. You got to exfoliate it away. You got to layer on more actives because, company A says that, product B is gonna relieve all of these symptoms that you're feeling. But Lydia, that doesn't seem to really work. Why is this backfiring in the winter for us?
Yeah, like as I was just kind of explaining with those like little micro cracks that are starting to form in like a slightly damaged skin barrier, what you end up having then is when you put more products on, you risk additional irritation because those products will just be able to penetrate, into those cracks. And then your immune system starts to say, hey, something's not right, right? Like we have pollutants or we have irritants coming into the skin tissue and our skin tissue isn't really repairing the way it's supposed to. So then you get inflammation and redness and you kind of like cyclically start to cause more deeper problems to your skin. And so really, like using actives is fine, but you have to be a little careful about it in, the colder weather months, specifically like things like retinol. You might notice in the summer, your skin does just fine. And like you can put retinol on every night or your prescription retinoid or whatever you use. But then in the winter, you might notice like, oh, that like dryness comes back quicker or, oh, I start to see a little redness quicker. And so when you notice those things, you want to stop and you actually want to take, the active out. Obviously, if you're prescribed something, talk to your doctor about it. But you want to start to reduce the number of irritants that can create that cycle of inflammation on your skin. And you want to kind of go back to the basics and really think about, well, I need to hydrate my skin. I need to put something on my skin to seal up the barrier so that that hydration stays in. And really like keeping your skin calm and irritation free is almost more important than trying to polish it or exfoliate it or, reduce hyperpigmentation. Like all of those actives are kind of like only effective when they're on top of healthy skin to begin with.
Yeah, it sounds like your winter skin really prefers predictability because of all that additional stress. Like even those gentler products, even the actives, those mild actives that you're using really regularly, those can cause irritation because of the damage that's being done by the cold, dry air.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the other side of that equation then is if you're able to really reduce the number of steps that you're using in your skincare routine, then you're also going to reduce the chances that you're going to disrupt that balance on your skin and reduce the chances for that irritation. It sounds like the goal here is to minimize our routine, but what does that really mean? So I want to be clear here that by minimum routine, we are not talking about doing nothing. We're not talking about, this your brother or boyfriend who has the 28-in-1 product that he just throws on his face and he washes off and he doesn't care. It doesn't mean that you have to be uncomfortable or abandoning all of your products. A minimum routine is just about reducing variability so that your skin can stabilize in the winter. We're trying to choose consistency over novelty and give skin enough support to do its job without overwhelming it. So in this case, doing less isn't about aesthetics or minimalism or being trendy. This is an active decision that we're making to support our skin function instead of constantly intervening.
So
So Lydia, maybe you could walk us through what a minimum routine looks like for you.
yeah, and I honestly, this is like the great time to do it because I live in Florida and it's usually hot and humid here. So typically I'm like, oh, my skin is pretty good. But for once, now it's freezing here. And I actually finally like had a moment yesterday where I was like, oh wow, like my cream that I put on my face, like hurt a little bit. And I was a little startled by that. And I was like, oh, I need to put like an oil and an occlusive on top of this. And I need to be careful and make sure that, I don't let this dryness get worse. And I think it's really actually fun when you start to notice how to respond to your skin because you'll realize that you can fix these problems pretty fast. So, like, one I would recommend is like if you are, well, we can kind of walk through it. For me, my skin is not super prone to acne or other like pimples or like irritation like that. So I'm pretty comfortable with like pretty oil based products don't bother me. Now, depending on the oil that you're using, like if it's a fast absorbing oil like jojoba that really mimics your skin natural oils, you really shouldn't have too many problems with like getting, pimples or something from that. But I would recommend to just start thinking about your routine like this. The first thing is we want to keep our skin clean, right? So you don't want to be washing your skin all the time, but you do want to have some kind of cleanser. And you want a cleanser that's like pretty simple, doesn't need to have a lot of ingredients. You can go the water-based route. And I would recommend not using something that's foam, like a foamy. You want to use something that's pretty, like a basic kind of face wash because you want to not strip away too much oil if you go the water-based route. If you're going an oil-based cleanser, you risk stripping away the oils less. It's just kind of a personal preference, but oil-based cleansers can be a little more gentle. And then, you don't want to wash your face all the time, but you wash your face, once a day, maybe. So then once your face is clean, I really recommend using, again, a really simple lotion. You want something with humectants like glycerin in it, depending on your skin type, lotions that are sensitive, hypersensitive lotions or lotions that don't have, a bunch of extracts in them are usually the better way to go because you're just reducing like the number of irritants, right? So a simple lotion has both water and oil in it. So you don't really, you don't go water or oil there. You just pick one that works on your skin. And then especially in the winter after that, you're going to want to follow that lotion with an oil or an occlusive. And the oil really is going to seal in the water that you just added into your skin with lotion. And, depending on your preferences, you can do something that's really strong. Like you can go to full shea butter, or if you work outside, maybe you use Vaseline, very strong occlusive, or if, your skin is like not out in the cold, all day or whatever, you can use, something a little bit less strong. You can use like an oil like jojoba oil or another oil that works for your skin type. But again, keeping it really simple. And that's really it. That's all you really need. And if you're going to add actives into that routine, you want to add them into the routine as directed on the active. But I'll give the example for vitamin C. I would add my vitamin C oil to my clean skin so that I can absorb as much of the vitamin C first, and then I'll go ahead and finish my routine. But yeah, that's a very simple way to kind of do it. My recommendation is like you don't just have to apply this to your face. Like I was talking, in my anecdote, I think in my head about my face, but this applies to your whole body. Go get a body lotion and a body oil, and you can always put shea butter on top of that. And if you take hot showers or you are in the cold a lot, like, apply this routine to your whole body. It's not just, face only gets the special stuff and then the rest of your body gets nothing. So
Yeah.
that's my rec.
So then at its core, you got to cleanse. You want to get all that dirt off your face. You can bring some hydration into your skin with a lotion that's got a nice humectant like glycerin. And then you can seal it all up with a protective oil. All right.
Exactly.
And then if you're able to reduce your routine to those simple core pieces, then listening to your skin is going to become a lot easier. You're going to find that, oh, I skipped my oil today. It's cold outside and I'm feeling some tightness. Oh, but I know that in my routine, I have these three key pieces. I'm missing this one. My body's telling me today is a day where I need to, or the weather is such that I need to be adding that back into my regular routine.
Exactly. And it just becomes second nature. It's like the exercise example from the beginning, right? It's like if you are consistently exercising, you know what your body needs when something changes. If you are not doing a consistent routine, then it's harder to know. And bringing this back from an old podcast, like it takes about 28 to 30 days for your skin to cycle through something. Like do your routine without a lot of changes for a month before you start to make changes. And then you'll start to be able to like adjust things slowly. But if you are making a lot of changes all at once, it's going to be really hard to know what's effective and what's not for you.
Totally. And I really like this framework too because it's not a prescription. It's not everybody just needs to do A, B, C, D. What we're trying to get at here is everybody just needs to build a relationship with their body where they can understand, okay, I did X, the effect was Y. And you can listen to that feedback that your body is giving you and implement that into your routine, which I think is really cool, especially in
Exactly.
this age of mindfulness. Okay, how
Yeah,
do we close
exactly.
this out? Lydia, do you have a final science note you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I mean, if you really are going back to the chemistry, like in any chemistry class, they'll teach you that the structure of something predicts its function. And so that is true for our skin as well. The skin structure predicts how well it's going to function. And so if you are letting the weather or the environment erode away at the structure of your skin, it follows that the function's not going to be where it needs to be. And so we need to build a routine that supports the foundational structure, and then we'll be able to see, hopefully, the positive benefits on the function of the skin and the health of the skin.
Yes, listen to your skin, pay attention to that structure. And my takeaway would just be that in winter, your skin does not need more stuff. You don't need an emergency routine. You just need to listen to your body, introduce some stability, and let your skin tell you what it needs. If you want to go deeper into this topic, we have a full blog post on our website, suhuskin.com, on why minimum winter routines often work better. And next week, we're going to be talking about winter habits that quietly undermine your skin, even when your routine looks solid on paper. So thank you for listening. Feel free to leave any questions and comments in the comment section below, and we will see you next week. Bye. Sweet.